Welcome to Business Digest Radio, Southern Colorado's source for business, policy, economics, workforce, and innovation. Brought to you by Colorado Media Group. Here's your host, Dirk Hobbs.
Good afternoon, Southern Colorado. This is Dirk Hobbs, and you are listening to the Business Digest Radio here on Salem and Cumulus and all other places, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcast, as well as YouTube. So I want to thank you for joining us today. We've got a busy news morning this morning, or afternoon, I should say. Most recently, the news in Southern Colorado Space Symposium just wrapped up a little while ago with over 11,000 visitors from close to more than 20 countries around the world visited the Broadmoor here in Southern Colorado. Very exciting, lots of new news announcements. Obviously, there's quite a bit going on in the space and aerospace domain here in the region. And when we talk about the region, we're talking about Douglas County, south to Trinidad, but Douglas, El Paso, and Pueblo all continue to foster and incubate and grow this aerospace and defense and cybersecurity conduit, or this concentration or cluster, if you will, of companies that continue to emerge and grow here. So congratulations to the Space Foundation. Great job out there. An amazing event. And if you have not seen this, ladies and gentlemen, it is one of the most spectacular events you can ever see. Some of these displays are 3 and 4 stories tall. And it is no small investment to be in the room with Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Martin Marietta, and dozens of other international companies. Of course, NASA is there, and many of our space and aerospace companies that are located right here in Southern Colorado. So great experience there. The EDC also made a special announcement that week. The company called Select Tech will import about 150 jobs here in El Paso County. It's just another base hit in a series of base hits for the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, and it's really exciting to see them continually emerge as a cluster here in attracting and retaining companies in this particular sector. Douglas County, no slouch, over 27,000 jobs in this particular sector, just in that county alone, and they also continue to chalk up wins in the aerospace and defense sector. So really great stuff there. Pikes Peak Small Business Week is coming up May 4th through May 8th. It's going to start at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and I want to encourage you to get involved in this. There's some great education, speakers, and then you'll tour around El Paso County a little bit and see different venues in their context. And you can get tickets at Humanitix, I think that's the way it's pronounced. It's Humanitix. So events.humanitix.com, and you can pick up your tickets right now. An announcement earlier in the city of Colorado Springs, where Wayne Williams has joined the city of Colorado Springs as chief of staff with Mayor Yemi Mobolade. Selection process that took about 6 to 8 weeks here, and he finally made the finalist list and ultimately was selected by the board. So congratulations to Mr. Wayne Williams. You may recall he was Yemi's opponent in the election a few years ago, and doubtful that he will be his opponent again coming up this next April in the special election for mayor of Colorado Springs. A couple other things. The Northgate Visitor Center is opening up on May 15th. This is the 5th diamond of the City for Champions initiative that we underwent here in Colorado Springs to kind of bring sports and Olympic City USA into focus, is one of the brand monikers for the region. And this is an exciting venue. This is opposite, just north of the Hotel Polaris on Northgate Boulevard at the Air Force Academy. Exciting news and openings coming there. Our sports season is upon us here, and our sports economy is booming. And led by the Colorado Springs Sports Corporation, this is our sports commission here in Southern Colorado, and they have a full slate of events, starting with the Colorado Senior State Games coming up here. And I would encourage you to get involved as a participant. Get out there and do, your favorite sport or your favorite endeavor, whether it's ping pong, and there's a new game called puzzle racing. Yes, you're putting together puzzles at speed time. So it's kind of like those cups that they did, or the Rubik's Cube. Yeah. But anyway, that's a thing, and it is coming up here. ColoradoSpringsSports.org is where you can get that information. Some other news coming up here in just a moment, but before we get downstream a little bit, I do want to introduce our guest in the studio this morning. He is the president and CEO of Roth Industries here in Colorado. This might be the biggest employer few of you have ever heard of, but we're going to get into that and what he's up to here in Southern Colorado. You may know his father, J.W. Roth, who obviously helped bring online some of the Northern Entertainment District here in Southern Colorado, putting us on the map with world-class entertainment acts and, of course, all of those great restaurants up on the north side. Really exciting opportunities for us here to really diversify our income. Of course, the amphitheater, the Ford Amphitheater, has had a tremendous impact on the region and will contribute several $billion over the course of the next several years, economic impact into Southern Colorado. So that's really exciting. But let's get to the main event today. Today is Mitchell Roth, again, CEO of Roth Industries. I want to welcome you to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Glad you're here. Well, I like to orient our listeners and viewers to who's sitting in front of us today. Sure. So give us a little bit of background on Mitchell Roth.
Yeah. So, Colorado, sixth generation Colorado guy. Obviously, a lot of folks, especially here in El Paso County, know my dad, J.W. Roth. And, I grew up primarily in Douglas County and different parts of kind of South Metro, Denver, and the greater kind of Southern Colorado region. Mm-hmm. Went to school at Liberty University out in Virginia. So I left Colorado for a little while, went out there. And then I from there moved to New York City, worked in investment banking for a little while. And then ultimately, my dad called me and he's like, son, you got to get out of there. Let's go build a real business. I'll show you how real business works and all that kind of stuff. I came back in 2014, and I've been here ever since. So we're heavily invested, obviously, in this community and growing like crazy.
So dovetail us into your tenure now at Roth Industries.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
You bet. So when I first came back from New York, I was working with my dad. We were making a lot of investments. We were actually doing a lot of real estate development at the time. And that kind of led into what was Bourbon Brothers, was kind of our first foray into what became Venue. But ultimately we were opening restaurants. We were opening, we opened Boot Barn Hall, which is now Phil Long Music Hall. And he and I were kind of a 1-2 punch in that business. But then, along the way, it was December 26th. I still have the filing from the state of Colorado. It was December 26th. So it was the day after Christmas, we formed what is Roth Industries, right? And it was December 26, 2015. And, the concept really at the time was, the prepared foods category is growing like crazy. We obviously are running restaurants, but it's, sort of scaling what we were doing in the restaurants was really the idea, right? And, there was a lot of disruption happening in the retail prepared foods business. And we thought, we want to be involved. And so as entrepreneurs and in a very entrepreneurial way, and my dad's got, a history, obviously, in kind of the food manufacturing and food processing, meat processing side of the business. But, the RTE side, which is kind of the new category, ready to eat, right? Ready to eat, think of meals and entrees, fully cooked side dishes, things like that was kind of new to us. But, new ventures and big ideas is not something that's really ever scared him or me. And so it's like, let's go. Right. And so, the first couple of years really were spent more kind of development regulatory. We had to find a building. We had to, get a USDA grant of inspection. We had to build the building out. We had to do all that kind of stuff. And so, sort of an interesting story. We were looking originally in Denver, right? And the idea was really kind of I-70, I-25, the business was designed from the outset to be a national supplier, right? Go out and supply, all the major supermarket club stores like Costco, Sam's Club, and the mass market stores, right? Walmart, Target, stuff like that. And so, for us, we were kind of looking at it logistically as Denver would be, maybe a good spot to go. But around that point in time, 2016, there was a lot of legislation created that actually removed barriers to entry for the marijuana guys to come to Denver. And so all of a sudden, retail real estate was leasing for like industrial real estate was leasing for like retail prices, right? I mean, there were old 1950s, 12-foot ceilings with no natural gas, tiny little water line that were leasing for like $30 a foot because everybody from around the world, candidly, was coming to Denver to build that out. So we came back down to Colorado Springs and we settled on what was at the time the Biblica building. So the International Bible Society owned a building off of Jetstream, right off the Interquest and I-25, not too far from our restaurants and the Ford Amphitheater and all that stuff. And so it was a great building. It's like 1980s tilt-up concrete construction, 49,000 square feet, 50,000 square feet. And we leased a corner of it, right? Because, at the time, you got to remember, we're building this plant before we've ever sold 1 pound of product, right? And so we build out a little plant. We've got a lease in the back. And from there, it just kind of took off like gangbusters, right? We started building it out, sort of step by step. Ultimately, in 2021, we bought the building from Biblica. They left, they went to Monument. And now we've got the entire building up there and we're looking at more plants and expanding the existing facility. So it's grown like crazy. Our first customer was the Safeway Albertsons Rocky Mountain region. We had 133 grocery stores here in kind of the Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, New Mexico region. And today we're in over 11,000 stores across the country, including every Walmart in America. So it's been really good. And, a lot of that I think is a lot of the disruptive stuff that we're doing, candidly, but it's also the growth of the category, right? I mean, I always sort of tell the story, when I was a kid, I'm sure when you were a kid, when we were, all kind of growing up back in the day, the street lights would come on. I'd come busting through the front door and I'd ask my mom what was for dinner, right? And she would be like in the kitchen peeling potatoes and browning ground beef and, making a sauce, right? I mean, like she was cooking from scratch. And that's kind of the way I think many of us grew up, but it's not necessarily the way that modern Americans are operating today, right? So there's a big consumer behavior change that's happened that's created this opportunity in prepared foods, right? And so, prepared foods now at retail alone, and this is kind of a staggering number, but just at retail, so think Walmart, Kroger, Safeway, Albertsons, Ahold, Delhaize, Publix, those types of folks, grocery stores, is now a $26 billion a year category. And it's so highly fragmented. I mean, there's us, there's Mama's Creations, there's a couple other companies that are, have some share of that, but $26 billion is spread out across thousands of little prepared food suppliers. And that creates an opportunity for scale players to come along and really grow market share. So that's what we're doing at Roth.
Well, needless to say, quite a bit going on at Roth, but we're going to pick up the discussion right there with CEO of Roth Industries and a new announcement coming up for a new brand that you'll be hearing more and more in the marketplace. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right, welcome back to the Business Digest radio program. I'm your host, Dirk Hobbs. Welcome to Friday afternoon in Southern Colorado. It's an absolutely brilliant day. Summer season is upon us, so get out there and enjoy the outdoors. Hey, if you want to catch us on our Fox 21 Business Insider segment, join us on Monday mornings about 6:45-ish. And then it lives out on their website and our website in perpetuity. That's fox21news.com. And also you can go to socodigest.com, where about 28,000 visitors a month are coming to us for news each and every month. So we got news coming out the wazoo, folks. I mean, there is so much going on in our economic sectors and clusters. It is wonderful. And, we're trying to counterbalance this message with the anti-development sentiment that steadily creeps in. And part of what we're doing is we're gathering together as a region, as business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders, as a collective voice to let the Denver legislature know, the state legislature, that we want some reprieve on a lot of this legislative overload that they're putting on us right now, because they're taxing us on incredible amounts. And hopefully, as a collective voice here in Southern Colorado, that's from Trinidad to Douglas County, we're going to say enough is enough. And we need to open back the doors here and let people know that Southern Colorado is open for business. So join us in that conversation on a regular basis. Join your EDC, your chamber. They're all having the same conversation right now, and it's a good conversation to have. Well, we introduced you to Mitchell Roth, CEO of Roth Industries. He gave us a little bit of a brief background on his journey from Liberty University out here to join his father on what has been quite an enterprise here in Southern Colorado. Of course, you know the Ford Amphitheater with his father, J.W. Roth, at the helm there, and now what is Venue, VENU. It's one of Southern Colorado's almost only active New York Stock Exchange traded companies. Their headquarters is right here in Southern Colorado, and they will tell you it's been a heck of a ride for them as well as they continue to expand in other markets. Mitchell, welcome back. I'm glad you're here, my friend, because we're going to tell this story. You've got a command of the subject in this category like few I've ever seen. And I really want to give you a lot of runway here to kind of unpack, first of all, the category that you're in, you mentioned in the first quarter, is about a $26 billion category. Yep. And Roth Industries is really positioned well to start looking at other opportunities around the nation. And that's kind of where you guys are headed in this 26 and 27 year here.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And, it's obviously sort of a question, that we think about a lot is how do we best position ourselves to capture this growing category that candidly didn't exist 20 years ago, right? You went back 20 years and looked at the size of the prepared foods category. It was very, very small. And today it's $26 billion. And that $26 billion of sales is highly fractured, right? And there's, 50 million little mom and pop suppliers. And there's reasons for that, right? I mean, the business, if you will, or the industry, our specific segment within the category is super short shelf life, right? So when you think about prepared foods, you're kind of dealing with a couple of competing factors. One is you want long shelf life, but two, you want clean ingredients, right? This isn't your grandpa's frozen TV dinners, right? That are full of, a bunch of ingredients that look like they came out of a science textbook and not out of a pantry or a refrigerator, right? And so, what we're trying to lead is really twofold. We want to be the scale player with clean ingredients. And so how do we do that, right? How do we get from Colorado Springs, where we manufacture, over 50,000 pounds a day of fully cooked prepared foods, to Maine or to Florida or to Seattle or to San Diego? We go all across the country and we touch every single state in the continental United States. And we do that every single week with short shelf life, super clean ingredient prepared foods. Well, how do we do that? We're using a lot of technology, right? And there's technology that's available today, including things like high pressure pasteurization, which allows you, and I'm going to get a little technical here, but in our world, we have basically lethality steps, right? So steps wherein we're killing bacteria that could create a food safety risk, right? And, this is a brand new technology called high pressure pasteurization, HPP, that allows us post-pack. So we cook a chicken breast, we pack a chicken breast, and then we HPP it. So it's not something weird that's going into the ingredients or anything like that, but it's cutting edge, brand spanking new technology that's allowing us to extend shelf life naturally, right? And doing it after the product is packed. And so, for us, I think really where the opportunity is to one, create scale and become the scale player. I mentioned the highly fractured, business. There's $50 million, $5 million companies that basically make up this category, right? We've actually achieved a level of scale that most of them haven't. This year we'll do a little over $170 million. We're on a $100 million run rate today. And that's all organic, right? I mean, that's all us growing, distribution with existing customers. It's, growing distribution of current SKUs with new customers and all that kind of stuff. But then separately, we are going to go on a pretty big spending spree, right? So, we've got an investment banker lined up, an M&A specialist in sort of the consumer retail packaged foods category. We've got financing lined up, and we're going to go out and start acquiring companies in the category that'll allow us to achieve a level of scale that you can't achieve out of one location, right? So while the company is based here, we want to be able to replicate our manufacturing capabilities on the East Coast and in the Pacific Northwest and, in Texas. I'm going down to Texas next week.
So will you have a footprint in other markets?
100%. Yeah.
Footprint? Okay.
I think that we'll probably have 4 or 5 new incremental manufacturing facilities across the country by the end of next year, right?
Okay.
So, from today we operate in one building right here in Colorado Springs, and that is our manufacturing facility. Our problem is our business has grown so fast. Number one, it's outstripped our capacity. And so we've kind of got a decision to make. We either continue to invest here in Colorado, which, candidly is a little bit of a logistics desert, right?
Yep.
Colorado Springs, a little bit more sort of aerospace and defense and tourism and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's, in other words, it's more expensive to distribute product out of Colorado Springs. So while the business is here, our headquarters is here, our first manufacturing facility is here, we're looking at building in Texas or buying in Texas, candidly, buying in New Jersey, buying in Atlanta, buying in, Phoenix, Southern California. I'd love to be in Southern California because it's got perfect weather, but you can't do business out there. So we're going to go to the West Valley of Phoenix, and you're 4 hours to the Port of Los Angeles on a 53-foot tractor trailer, and that works for us. So, so we're looking at a bunch of different opportunities that way. And, we're looking at continuing to make modifications and expansions to our existing footprint here in Colorado Springs. We employ over 200 employees here in the city. And it's a huge opportunity. The city is great to work with, obviously. Colorado Springs Utilities, I've gotten to know them better than just about anybody because of all the work that we've done and a bunch of professionals down there. We've done a bunch of fairly good sized projects, with them, and they've been fantastic to work with. So we're not going anywhere from that perspective.
Well, Travis Deal was sitting in that chair just a week ago.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Know each other
Absolutely.
well. So is the idea to keep Roth Industries, or soon to be another brand coming up?
Yeah.
Are you guys going to go into this market as Roth Industries, or are you going to pivot?
No, yeah. So great question. So you mentioned earlier in the segment that there's one New York Stock Exchange traded company in Colorado Springs, and that's called Venue, right? And similar to Venue, Venue, when we first started it, was called Bourbon Brothers Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And there were 3 employees. It was my dad, me, and Heather Atkinson, right? And I guess Gary Tenner, if we want to include him. Gary was also there. But, there were basically like 4 of us, and it was Bourbon Brothers Entertainment, and we had, a bunch of ideas, and we opened Bourbon Brothers, and we opened Boot Barn Hall, which became Phil Long Music Hall and all that kind of stuff. But as they position themselves to do what they've done, and I say them, I mean, it's always kind of us. My dad and I always kind of correct each other. Like he'll say we and I'll say we, and it's, but we try to figure that out. But, ultimately when they position themselves to go public and sort of realize the national expansion down in McKinney and Broken Arrow and Webster and El Paso and all the stuff, all the huge announcements coming, by the way, that nobody knows about as it relates to East Coast development. That's going to be unbelievable. But, when they did that, they sat down and they rebranded the company, and they thought to themselves, as a New York Stock Exchange traded company, how do we sort of put the sheen, if you will, on our business from a branding perspective? And so they renamed the company Venue. And so, for us, we're kind of doing the same thing. Right now it's Roth Industries, and it's obviously the Roths and it's all that kind of stuff. But, for us, we want to create a awareness about our company as a cutting edge, technology enabled, clean label, future focused manufacturer of prepared foods. And so we're going to be rebranding as Culinova, which is really the fusion of culinary, because we want to be a food first company, right? If it doesn't taste good, if it doesn't deliver on sort of the eating experience, that's unrivaled, then you've got trouble, right? Because you're not the big guy, right, who can do that, right? Banquet frozen meals don't taste good, but they're 99 cents, right? And so they build a business around that. We're not that. And we don't want to be that, right? We want to be culinary focused, but with sort of the enablement of a supernova, right? We're fast moving, right? Relative to a lot of the big guys, whether it's like Cargill as an example, right? We just hired a new chief customer officer. He's a head of sales. His name's Matthew Karpinko, and he is the former vice president of sales at Cargill. The problem that he had as a sales guy there is they're slow moving. It's a big battleship. We're a supernova. We move super fast. It's how we win business with a bunch of the world's biggest retailers. And so we're going to be going out as Culinova, and we will be listing ourselves on the New York Stock Exchange. And so then there will be 2 New York Stock Exchange traded companies here in Colorado
And
Springs.
no doubt supported and founded by a member of the Roth family. So,
there you go.
Well, we're certainly glad you're here. And it's exciting to hear this news that you have really evolved to a place where you guys can pivot and start planting your flag in other markets. Yeah. Do you intend to keep the headquarters here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we're a Colorado Springs company. It's just, we send, I'd have to count them up. We're sending 25 or 30 truckloads a week to the East Coast, right? And so, we need to get, it's a lot. And listen, with where we're at in the diesel market right now and broader sort of WTI, market, we want to use as little amount of fuel as we possibly can. So,
well, we're going to get into some of the details of the logistics there. But as you can tell, folks, Roth Industries, now Culinova, coming into the marketplace, and they are looking to go to the New York Stock Exchange just as well as the one his father did not long ago with Venue. So stick around. We're going to get a little deeper dive into Culinova and what's happening over there and how they plan to address a lot of the variables, the external variables that are plaguing all businesses across the country right now. The war that is active right now, the cost of fuel, the cost of staff and everything else, and how AI plays a role in this company. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right, good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third quarter of Business Digest Radio here on Salem Media. And of course, we're also shopped out on Cumulus Radio and our website, socodigest.com, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts. So glad you're with us. We're hanging out with business savant here. His name's Mitchell Roth. He's CEO of Roth Industries, soon to be Culinova. They're going to be rolling that out soon. I did want to ask you kind of what the timing is on the official rollout.
Yeah.
When you'll reveal logos and all of those things.
So look for it late Q2. I mean, we're close, but there's all kinds of legal paperwork that has to go around and, all that kind of stuff to make a whole bunch of stuff super official. So late Q2, everything should be done and hopefully sooner than that. But, we're on the 5-yard line, I'd say.
Very good. So. Well, as you said in the second quarter, you guys are starting to expand your footprint. You're looking for acquisition opportunities across the United States because logistically, it's just very difficult and expensive, frankly, to get the product you guys are making so well here to the coastal communities as well as heck, just across state lines sometimes. But, there's a lot of outside influencers that are impacting the way you guys see the business equation. Tell me how you're navigating that right now.
So there's a lot of things, right? I mean, when you start a company of any kind, right, you sort of start at the most rudimentary form, right? And then your business evolves and, it becomes better over time. And part of that is just technology enablement, right? So, when we first started, it was small batch ovens, the smallest, slowest multi-vac tray sealers and thermoformers that they made. And, it was a very sort of different process when we first started, but you kind of have to, right? You don't have, the scale to be able to realize a payback on investments the way that we do now, right? So what we're looking at doing now is really sort of creating some technology enablement that will reduce costs. So one thing is obviously getting to the coast, right? And that is purely a transportation thing. It's like I can open a plant in New Jersey. I can service the northeastern corridor, and from that, I can, generate a return or realize cost savings that either go in my pocket or the customer's pocket to reduce cost and increase volume and all that kind of stuff. But part of what we're looking at doing and what's so crazy that's happening in the industry, everybody hears about AI and you hear about things like that. For us, it's AI, but it's really AI-enabled robotics, right? And the robotics side of our industry will completely and totally revolutionize the way that further processing food is done over the course of like the next 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of startups as well as highly established, companies like Siemens and people like that who, have robotic solutions that allow for you to do far more with far, far fewer human laborers, right? And the human laborers are never going to go away entirely, but not in the next 5 years, they're not going to go away entirely.
Yeah.
But what that does is it gives us an opportunity as a growth company in this category to adopt a lot of this new technology in a way that the big guys can't, right? For the big guys to completely revolutionize their processing, like the operation side of their processing is an unbelievably heavy load. And obviously they have access to infinite amounts of capital at almost zero carrying costs. But for us, but then actually going in and making all of those installations and training processes, and they're dealing with they're dealing with in some cases government-sized companies, right? If you look at the big guys, whereas us, we're able to be far more nimble and work with a lot of these startups in robotics, specifically in AI, machine learning enabled robotics, that I think will give us a huge competitive advantage, certainly against the small guys, those kind of $15-20 million companies that I talked about. And also for sure against the big guys, right?
One of the things that you mentioned just a moment ago struck me, and that is, you built the company on quality.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
This isn't, like you said, your granddad's Stouffer's,
right,
hot plate or whatever it was. So you guys are focused on quality. How are you managing the balance between scaling and maintaining that quality?
Yeah, no, super good questions. For me, I always kind of say, I don't know how to make bad things, right? Like I just am who it's kind of like my dad, right? My dad could open cheaper amphitheaters if he wanted to. If you wanted to, you could literally put up a shed, build a stage, hire a band and sell tickets, right? But it's kind of like a totally different approach, right? Yeah. And so for us, I don't know how to make bad products super cheap and just try to jam them, through the channels, right? What I want to do is introduce an entirely different level of quality that changes the paradigm of prepared foods, because there's still a stigma of this meal came out of a package and therefore it must be bad for you. It must be full of, so it must have 1,400 milligrams of sodium. Yeah. It must be XYZ, right? And we're changing all of those things, right? We're delivering super cleaner label than you could probably make at home in a lot of cases because of our access to fresher, better ingredients. We have an unbelievable culinary team. We've got guys that are, all culinary, School of America, Hyde Park graduates that have worked in the best fine dining restaurants anywhere in the world, worked at a lot of the big companies like Nestle and stuff like that, who are doing our product development, but they're doing it with the mandate of making restaurant quality, let's say clean label. That means a lot of things to a lot of people, but for us, it means no scientific looking ingredients. We don't need X's and Z's and Y's, is the third and fourth ingredient in our meals. You should be able to read your ingredient statement and recognize it, right? And we have health focused lines, like we're the exclusive, brand operator of the Whole30 brand. So Whole30 came along, unbelievable brand, 5.5 million followers on social media. We basically acquired that brand for retail products. And, if you know what the Whole30 brand stands for, it's literally zero added sugar, as part of the diet, zero alcohol, which is, we were talking about that a little bit off air, but zero dairy, zero grains, zero legumes, right? I mean, really inflammation causing ingredients, everything gets stripped out, right? And so we operate that brand. It's on shelf at Costco. It's doing phenomenally well. And it's part of our portfolio. Even where we're not, though, doing something that's kind of health and wellness or diet oriented, we could be doing a pasta bolognese, but that pasta bolognese, the pasta going into that bolognese should be, a clean label, semolina wheat, flour, pasta, and not something that's full of, a whole bunch of scientific looking ingredients.
So that doesn't concern you, though, the price of imported goods and the price of food in general.
Yeah.
Obviously the spice market, all of those different things that you guys are adding to your foods right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't concern you.
Well, it's always a little concerning, right? I mean, I've been through some times in this business, right? And, everybody remembers COVID, right? Or, we try to forget it, but unfortunately we still remember,
Unfortunately.
And what happened was, during that period of time, we went through probably the most volatile moment in time in the commodities market that anybody's ever experienced. We went from a point where when COVID first happened, every restaurant in the United States shut down. The supply of chicken breasts, and I'll use chicken breast because that's basically the primary, processing ingredient that we're utilizing. At least it's the largest, became so staggering. It was just all spoiling out, right? I mean, there was no home for it, whether it was Tyson Foods or Cook Foods or any of these guys. They had truckloads and truckloads and truckloads. We're talking about thousands of 52-foot trailers that just died on the side of the road with chicken breast there, and there was no home for it. Chicken breast went to 60 cents a pound, right? For us, at a wholesale industrial full truckload rate.
Got it.
All of a sudden, every restaurant in the United States of America reopens at the exact same time.
Yep.
And the flocks, farmers didn't know, right? I mean, so the guys that are actually hatching eggs and managing flock sizes had no idea that all of a sudden overnight, every restaurant in the United States of America, so they all open up and now there's no chicken. I mean, you have to lie, cheat, rob, steal, everything else to get one truckload, right? And we need multiple trailers a week. And so, all of a sudden every restaurant opens back up and the price goes to $3.50 a pound. So there's ways to manage that. And I think in our growth, we're buying dozens of trailers now, every week. And so we're able to put together fixed cost pricing. But no, I mean, the market's bad. I think, what's interesting is really the dynamic around the operation side of the business and kind of the robotic enablement of operations over time with functional thumbs and, really interesting technology that will enable, companies to move faster deliver a higher quality product at a lower cost moving forward.
That's very helpful. Yeah. All right. So you guys are starting to go into the M&A world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that landscape look like for you right now?
It's interesting.
How are you?
Well, we are prepared. So we're working with a great investment bank and we've got some great advisors, financing sources and things like that. For us, I mentioned that we were planning to go public, right? And there is a healthy, kind of arbitrage opportunity between companies that look a lot like ours that are public companies, and sort of private equity driven valuations for smaller companies that haven't necessarily achieved scale, haven't necessarily achieved super durable cash flow. And so that's what we're looking at doing. I mean, I mentioned that our plant in Colorado Springs is at capacity. I mean, it's like if you open the door, chicken starts falling out of the plant, right? So we are at capacity there. And so for us, it's kind of, we need to grow. And there's really kind of two opportunities: it's buy it or build it, right? And the buy it equation is just a lot harder, right? It takes a lot more time. There's a lot more regulatory that goes into it. There's actually a lot more risk that goes into it as well. Whereas if we can find kind of growth companies, or at least companies that are capable and kind of have a lot of the ingredients and they just need a little bit of a push to grow, we can go buy those companies, fairly inexpensively. And we've actually had a pretty steady sort of interest rate environment and kind of, the market seems, outside of Iran and everything else that's going on over there, there's a pretty healthy market right now for that type of stuff. So, we're looking at buying smaller companies that have maybe kind of hit a little bit of a ceiling at $20 million in sales and, candidly, we want to go buy 4 or 5 of them over the course of the next 24 months.
So are you seeing a welcome message, a welcome mat as you come to these companies, or are they reluctant
to
use their brand ID and all that stuff?
It sort of depends. I mean, you're dealing with people, right? Yeah. So when you're dealing with M&A, you're dealing with people. Yeah. Yep. And, there's examples, I don't want to get specific, but especially on deals that didn't happen, right? But, there's a deal in New Jersey that we looked really hard at. And I was literally flying into New York International Airport like every week for a month, right? And we looked really hard at a deal there. And we didn't do it not because of personality in that case, but in that case, you're dealing with a company that was literally started by the current CEO's dad in like the 1950s, right? And so, and there's a bunch of family that's in the business. And so sometimes you deal with that dynamic. Sometimes you're dealing with a company that, traded to a private equity firm and then traded to another private equity firm. And, it's kind of moved around a bunch of different times, and they're more just pragmatic about it, right? Mm-hmm. There's less kind of emotion in it for those types of sellers. So we kind of look across the board, but I would say that, for us, one of the things that does make us attractive in doing a deal is a lot of operators have watched what we've done as we've grown. And I think they trust us as an operator because in a lot of cases, they're taking equity. I mean, a lot of times the seller is taking a portion of the deal in equity and they have to transition the business correctly and do all that kind of stuff. And so they get a little skeptical if they look at a company and go, man, I don't know if I want to be involved with this. When they see what we've done, the operations, the leadership team that we have in place, everybody's very excited to be involved.
When we come back, we'll talk to Mitchell about how they're positioning themselves to get going here this summer with Culinova and getting out into the market and kind of what it might look like for an even bigger fish to maybe look at Culinova. We're back in a moment.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right, we're back here in the fourth quarter, Business Digest Radio. I'm your host, Dirk Hobbs. Glad you're with us on this Friday afternoon. Actually, you're just one short hour away from happy hour. So dive in. The water's warm. It's going to be a great weekend ahead. Mitchell Roth is across the board from me this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. And we have been talking about all the steps that are leading up to what is a very exciting event coming towards the end of the year when Culinova, formerly Roth Industries, will seek to go public. They're going to be filing their S1 later this year. So anyway, exciting news on this front. I mean, are you having fun yet?
Oh, man, we don't stop having fun. Okay. We don't stop. Well, I guess sometimes when chicken goes to $3.50 a pound on the Urnerberry, then it's less fun. But other than that, generally speaking, we're having a lot of fun.
Well, let's get back to business and how you're positioning this frigate. It's not a battleship like some of the other big ones. But I'm curious as to how you're protecting the brand and the integrity of the product as you're going into the market right now, looking at other smaller opportunities across the board. Okay. Do you have your eyes on the north side as well as larger companies, some of the larger food manufacturers maybe eyeballing you guys as possible acquisition?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's certainly always an opportunity. And I think that ultimately there will be, just like every industry, there's going to be a lot of consolidation. Candidly, we're going to be the consolidator. And then ultimately, who knows what happens? One day, maybe we get consolidated. And there's reasons why that would potentially be a really good thing. primarily integration, right? I don't plan on ever owning farms or contracting with co-ops and processing, live birds or anything like that. And, there's a lot of companies that do, right? And those guys are really, really big. Most of them are south, not north, but Tyson Foods down in Arkansas. And, there's some interesting guys that we've been working a lot with, right? There's a company from Mexico called Bachoco that's come in and they've started acquiring a bunch of kind of live bird operations, processing facilities, and they've set up a new entity called Bachoco USA. But, there's somebody that we're partnering with, on a lot of on the sourcing side, and you never know. I mean, who knows? Maybe we buy them or maybe they buy us, or maybe there's some form of a merger that happens there that gets us down chain from an integration perspective. And as integration comes along and sort of that same sort of technology enablement is realized on their side of the ledger, there's a lot of opportunities there. So, ultimately we'll see what happens. But for right now, I think, let's say that we're $120 million right this very second. We'll do a little over $170 million this year. I mean, it's a $26 billion category, and I don't think that we're going to see meaningful headwinds from an opportunities perspective for another couple $1 billion, right? So, that's kind of the immediate focus. But on the larger side of that, I mean, that's just prepared foods, right? I mean, every case-ready pack of raw chicken breast doesn't count in that number. And that's really where the big guys are. So, we'll see what happens. But we're for right this very second, to your point, we're having fun. We're growing like crazy. We're cranking out chicken like at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So it's all good.
Very good. Well, walk us through some of the financial preparation that you guys are doing right now.
Yeah. So a whole bunch of things that are happening. I mean, one, obviously, we're raising a little bit of money. We're looking at M&A and we're going to really crank that engine up here pretty fast. But, the other side of it is, for us, I think to really end up with the platform that we need to be super successful at kind of getting through those next couple billion that I talk about, we need a sizable platform, right? And so for us, from an access to, capital perspective, candidly, in the capital markets, we plan to go public. And, ultimately we plan on filing our S1 later this year and doing that, through a traditional IPO process. And so we're excited about that. In fact, the New York Stock Exchange has already reserved our symbol. So don't look for it yet. It's not in your Yahoo Finance app, but it's going to be Nova, N-O-V-A is going to be the symbol for Culinova. And so we're super excited about that, kind of late 2026, sort of the timeline there. But we're pretty excited about it.
Very good. When you talk about private investment and other groups that are going to be coming in to help underwrite your expansion, what concerns do you have, or what infrastructure are you building up? Again, to preserve the integrity of the product that you've been famous for so far. So we'll see what ultimately ends up happening as it relates to sort of our cap table. But for right now and for the sort of long foreseeable future, the cap table is really controlled by about 5 guys. Got it.
And the first 2 both have the last name Roth, right? So, we're in a pretty good position from a sort of control the product perspective. I think that, the other side of it is we're very selective, candidly, with who we partner with, whether it's an investor or whether it's a supplier. Any investor who has intentions other than to financially support the vision of building a multi-billion-dollar premium, better for you, clean label, disrupt the industry, prepared foods company is sort of capital that we wouldn't contemplate taking. Sure. There are so many great guys, actually, which it's weird that I say great guys and private equity guys in the same sentence, but there actually are. There are some really, really, really good guys that get it. That want to be involved in that. They understand what's happening from a consumer behavior sort of tailwind. They don't want to come in and just try to jam us down from a cost perspective or a margin perspective, because at the end of the day, growth is really the engine that has gotten us from 0 to 100+ million, delivering, $175, $180 million this year. And it'll be that same sort of concept of delivering sort of the best quality product in the industry at a fair price. That I think will take it from here to multiple billions. And so, we're not interested in being the cheapest guy on shelf. We're also not interested candidly at being, an unattainable, most expensive guy on shelf. That's a totally different category. But for us, I think that, we are premium. We are clean label. We're affordable. We're convenient. And we partner with the best retailers in the industry, whether it's Walmart or Aldi, Safeway, Albertsons, Ahold Delhaize, Costco. I mean, you name it, right? And so we have great distribution. We have an unbelievable team. I always say we have the best team for anybody in our zip code. I mean, we have guys that are like MBAs from the University of Chicago, Booth School of Business, all this stuff. And these guys are great. And we have a phenomenal team, whether it's them or whether it's, everybody that's working in our plant, right? We've got 200 employees that are working in the plant. Lots of them were there on day one, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're phenomenal, but I think we have the recipe, no pun intended, right? We have a lot of the ingredients that will result in success here.
What are some of your leadership tenets, Mitchell, that you dig into and you don't deviate from?
Yeah. So we are a very entrepreneurial company, and I would say that my management style is also very entrepreneurial. I don't write a 3-year plan and then just like you stick to the plan. For us, if something's not working, we're going to get in a room and we're going to figure it out and we're going to fix it. Right. And I don't care if it's at 8:00 at night on a Saturday night. It is a little hardcore probably in that way. But I think everybody that works at Roth also loves working at Roth. And, most of our guys are super long tenured, guys and gals. We've got people in our business, Dirk, that you wouldn't believe, right? We have a girl that started she was like the R&D assistant. She's like running all of procurement for us now. And she's the smartest person you've ever met. And her name is Clara Leva. I'm going to give her a shout out because she was also the employee of the year last year. We gave her a chef code and everything, but she's great. But that's just a good example, or an example, I should say, of somebody who has grown their career at Roth, who has kind of, embraced, the sort of where we're going and the vision, and has built a phenomenal career with us. And she's making great money now too.
So career tracks abroad as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you guys plan on looking overseas or outside the continental U.S. for distribution?
We have looked. We didn't look for very long. We looked for about 5 minutes and then we're like, there's a $26 billion category here in the United States of America. We don't really need to go to Canada or Mexico. And it's just, you start dealing, people don't realize, they look at Colorado Springs, say heavily regulated town because of aerospace and defense and defense contract and all that. We are like the most regulated people in the world. We have the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, inspectors on our floor at all times while we're manufacturing. We manufacture 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, and they're great. Right. And their job is to make sure that we're doing the right things from a food safety and quality perspective and all that kind of stuff. And they're great to work with. But all of a sudden, once you just got done figuring out the USDA, now you got to go figure out the USDA of Mexico. Let's call it the Mexico DA, right? Or whatever, the same Canadian regulatory bodies. And there's a lot that goes into it, even from a labeling in French and Spanish and, different required, kind of labeling disclosures, right? And Mexico is famous for that. Yeah. And we're becoming a little bit more like that. Probably a good thing, not a bad thing, and probably something that helps us, not hurts us, because it's just going to sort of amplify a lot of the great work that we're doing from an ingredient perspective with our products already. But, there's $26 billion, maybe $5 or $6 billion from now, we'll start looking at Canada.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. But I appreciate the fact that your eyes on the ball here, and you're going to grow within your category and grow well. Yeah. So the acres of diamonds are everywhere. Yeah. So, all right. Tell me a little bit about your dad's experience just going IPO. Yeah. What are some, every company that does this, it is an arduous task. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's long, it's arduous. You got a lot of eyeballs looking at you. All right. In a couple minutes here, just give us some of the bumps and bruises that you've learned from, some of the wisdom you've gained watching your father go through this in Venue. Well, in a lot of ways, I've been watching him go through this since I was about 11 years old. When I was a little kid, it was kind of a rule that we had where if my dad spent a lot of time in New York City, and that actually kind of prompted my interest in moving there when I was young and a lot of that kind of stuff. But he would be in New York a lot, raising money, public company type stuff and taking companies public. And I would go with him, right? When I was 11 years old, I had a brown suit and I had a little tie. And my whole thing was I never smiled when I was with him because I was there for business. I wasn't there. Then we'd go to Yankees games and it was a lot of fun. But, we'd go through these meetings. When I was 11 years old, I'd sit in meetings from 7 o'clock in the morning until a dinner that ended at 10 o'clock at night with serious investors, tough guys, right? This is not
playtime, right? So we did it, but I've watched him do it a bunch, and ultimately there's just a huge opportunity that is created, when and if you're able to realize a successful IPO, you have access to the capital markets, and that's something that is just a massive, competitive advantage relative to the private companies. Generally speaking, the private companies are borrowing a lot of money or they're raising equity at, less attractive valuations. And there's really no way for them to be able to get the valuation, I think, that ultimately, if you're successful as a public company, you'll be able to realize. And so we're going to do it. It's a lot of work. It's auditing and it's regulators and it's the SEC and it's comments periods and all that kind of stuff. But we'll go through it. We'll get it done. And then we'll be Nova. We'll be on the New York Stock Exchange. We'll ring the bell. I was just there, like a year and a half ago with my dad, and he's ringing the bell. It was awesome.
They're going to give you a chair over there, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I want to give you the last minute here to kind of just address the private equity market out there, the investment market out there, and welcome them to a conversation.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, for us, we're in a period right now, we're raising a little bit of capital. We've got, for the most part, most of it committed. But we love talking to investors, especially smart food guys. At the end of the day, there's a lot of private equity firms out there that have zero experience in our category. There's a lot that do, though, right? And a lot of them are in Boulder and a lot of them are in Chicago. And then there's some in Los Angeles and New York, obviously. Dallas is a huge hub. And so we're looking for financial partners to continue to grow. In a lot of ways, we're going to be looking for family offices, possibly some private credit, type funds that we can work with to finance M&A and finance acquisitions.
Excellent.
Our company is hugely profitable, but when you're doing deals, you've got to access different sources of capital and things like that to do that. So, we're making a bunch of money. Our top line's growing like crazy, but we're really just looking for great financial partners, lenders, private credit guys, that want to be a part of our story. And so don't be surprised if you happen to be a private credit guy or a private equity guy or a family office if you get reached out to by an investment bank asking about financing a deal for Culinova, right? So we welcome those conversations. You can go, the Culinova website's actually up today.
Very good.
So you can go to culinova.com, go to our contact form, that goes straight to our team and they'll get it to me. So
very good. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
On what you're doing, brother.
Appreciate it.
This is awesome. Exciting. Colorado Springs.
Thank you for having me, Dirk.
Absolutely. Colorado Springs has two amazing projects by the Roth family here. Obviously, Venue, one of the first active New York Stock Exchange companies here in El Paso County in a long time. And soon to be Nova, N-O-V-A.
That's right.
Is your
N-O-V-A.
For Culinova, another company with the Roth family here in Southern Colorado. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, see how your mind works, and it's going to be exciting to see where you guys go.
It's awesome. Dirk, thank you for having me. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. All right, folks, we'll see you next week when we have a great guest from the sporting industry.
You've been listening to Business Digest Radio, Colorado's source for business, workforce, and economic development news. Find us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and at socodigest.com. To be featured on the show, email info@coloradomediagroup.com.